Welcome to another episode of Mental Wellness Insights. Today we still have with us Pastor Dennis as we continue with the series on suicide. In our last episode we discussed the possible causes of suicide. And today we want to look at statistics globally, in Africa and locally in Kenya. We will also try and look at warning signs, the red flags. Karibu sana, Pastor Dennis.
Thank you.
As usual, you will still introduce yourself.
Thank you. I am Pastor Dennis Maduguda, and I'm a preacher. I'm a counselor, an author, a father, a husband, and I'm happy to be on this series as we try and find solution and give attention to the subject of suicide.
Yeah, thank you very much. Last time we discussed causes.
Yes.
And a lot of people have come up and said we did a good job.
Wow.
But there is one issue that probably we did not mention about guilt. Now, I would like us to say a little about guilt before we move on to statistics.
Last time we mentioned different causes of suicide, and we took time discussing the health issues, the social issues, the historical causes, and the spiritual causes. And as you rightly mentioned, one of the things that could drive somebody down the route of suicide is excessive guilt.
Yeah.
Many people would do things they should have never done, or they don't do what they should have done. And that sense of I have failed, I've done the wrong thing, or I have not done what I should have done, can easily push somebody
to
suicide.
Yeah.
If you look in the Bible, it's a good example in Judas Iscariot. And Judas was a brave man, although we would always want to vilify him, but he was just being smart. Judas had been with Jesus for a long time. Judas has seen Jesus do every miracle under the sun. So one thing Judas knew is Jesus cannot be arrested. So he wanted some money. He takes the money knowing when they come for Jesus, Jesus will stretch his hand, these guys will fall down, I will have my money, Jesus will be free.
Yeah.
So when now Jesus is arrested, Judas still has the money, he's waiting to see the outcome of his scheme. And now the master is beaten up, the master is going to the cross, and all of a sudden he fails. He realizes that, look, I have messed. I have done the wrong thing. I've just sold out my master. And the plan I had is not going according to my thought. So he goes, takes the 30 pieces of silver, dumps in the temple. After these people who had offered the money refused to take it in, and look, he goes to hang himself.
Yeah.
So that is one of the most pronounced cases of suicide in the whole Bible. And what drove this man to commit suicide is guilt. When he felt like I have just done the worst thing under the sun.
I've messed up.
I've blown it up.
Yeah.
So it's good to make it clear, even if you have done something you feel very bad about it, the Bible says, even if your sins are as red as scarlet, God is able to wash you and make you white as snow. So even if you have been to a place, you have messed up, you have done what you should have never done, I beg you, my brother, my sister, talk to somebody. Talk to a pastor, talk to a counselor, talk to a brother. Open up, let them console with you and probably help you out of the guilt trap.
Yeah, and for the fact that we all make mistakes.
Yes.
Nobody's perfect. So your mistake should not push you to kill yourself.
There are people who have had a pregnancy that was not expected. And because of the parents are now against it, everybody's screaming at you. They feel that I've failed myself, I've failed my parents, and I'm now pregnant. I am in my 16th or 17th year of life. I'm still a young kid. I'm in high school. And because of that guilt, they end up doing what?
They end up
committing suicide. So even if you get yourself into a wrong place, please, the solution is not committing suicide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now we will go to the topic of today.
Okay.
Trends, the statistics. How is, from your research?
Yes.
How are the statistics? We start globally. Yeah.
It's good that we are talking about statistics, and probably this could paint the picture of how serious this matter is.
Yeah.
And I hope you can agree with me where we stand now. This matter of suicide is not just a mental health issue.
No.
It's actually now a serious public health issue.
Yeah.
That it cannot just be pushed into the corner of mental health. No. It must be brought out into the open and have everybody discussing this matter of suicide. So I have done a little research here and there, looked at the statistics that are given by WHO, looked at the statistics that are given by the Ministry of Health in Kenya, looked at the kind of figures that the CDC, Center for Disease Control, is giving in the US, and you realize the figures are worrying. The statistics are quite worrying. And one thing that is coming up, obviously, one is that there is very poor data. Although the figures are already worrying, but there is a kind of worrying poor data reporting on suicide. And I will tell you why. Because there's a lot of stigma around suicide. So there is underreporting. What we have are mainly estimates. But unlike things like HIV, like cancer cases, when it comes to the issue of suicide, there's a lot of underreporting.
And I can imagine underreporting, and particularly in the Africa region.
Yes.
Because of so many other issues. Cultural issues, stigma, and all that.
And then there's the issue of criminalization of suicidal behavior.
Yes.
So there are many countries also, like our country, Kenya, until just last year is when a bill was passed in Parliament trying to decriminalize suicide.
Yeah.
It has been a penal offense.
Yeah, so imagine somebody has an issue and tries to commit suicide, and then they take him to prison. And that doesn't solve the issue.
That is the irony in this thing, because somebody is battling family problems. The way we talked like last time, one of the major social problems is a broken home. This person has a disintegrating marriage, is having a failing home, and he attempted suicide. Then when the Kenyan police officers come to the person, they grab him and push him into a cell, a police cell, then take him to court for attempted suicide. Then if the person goes to prison for that offense, do you think he or she will come out better?
No, and also the family members are left grappling with the suicide issue.
Yes.
And grappling with the person, your person being in prison for that.
Very true.
It does not help in any way at all.
So I think from this platform, we should be championing for a decriminalization of suicide so that it becomes an open subject where it can be discussed openly to save lives.
Yeah, because if my person attempted suicide, I will not report it as attempted suicide. Because I do not want him to go to prison because of that.
Very true.
Yeah. So those are the reasons why statistics are not really the true picture.
And in fact, for the statistics that we are having, for the developed countries, they may be having better reporting numbers.
Yeah.
But for the developing world and the underdeveloped world, the figures are very, very poor. There's a lot of underreporting. Probably that's why we may not have the exact figures of the suicide cases. Now, globally, it is reported that around 740,000 people die every year out of suicide.
740,000 people,
die every year out of suicide. That is to say that every 43 seconds, somebody just committed suicide. Every 43 seconds. If we are going to sit here for an hour, by the time we are done with this interview,
nearly 2 people have committed suicide.
Not 2 people, 60 plus people have committed suicide.
You say
every 43 seconds.
Or seconds, not minutes.
Not minutes.
Yeah.
That's how terrible it is. That if we sat here for 1 hour, by the time we are done with our discussion, around the world, more than 60 people, around 70 or so people just died out of suicide.
Yeah. And that now tells us the importance of speaking out about this issue. Yeah.
So imagine sitting down for 1 hour and around the world, in that 1 hour, 70 people just committed suicide. It's terrible. It is recorded that every minute that passes, 4 males and 6 females, 4 males and 6 females will be taken into hospital for a suicide attempt.
So attempting. So you are telling me that more females attempt suicide?
Yes, and we will actually come to discuss that one.
Yeah.
Every minute, 10 people are taken to hospital
for attempted
suicide. Some of them with gunshot wounds, others having ingested some stuff. Every minute, 10 people are taken to hospital for attempted suicide.
Yeah.
That is just how serious this thing is. It's also recorded that suicide is the third leading cause globally of death, with the ages of 15 to 29 years. So globally, the ages of 15 to 29 years, the third leading cause of death is suicide.
The youth are at a risk.
Very, very much.
Yeah.
Our young people, and you see, these are the ages where people are having personal discovery. They're trying to discover themselves, trying to catch a career, trying to make a family. That is the age range where people are trying to discover themselves. And if they miss a bearing, the level of desperation out of a wrong decision, a failed attempt at marriage, a failed attempt at a career, could easily push somebody the wrong route.
Yeah, and this is the age where people are very very sensitive about what is going on, what is trending, and they want to move with the trends.
Yes.
And if they are not able to, for one reason or another, they are pushed to suicide.
It's terrible. And you're looking at what you just mentioned, the male and the female ratio when it comes to the subject of suicide.
Yeah.
It is largely observed that males die more than the females, although the females attempt
more attempt, but more males die. Meaning female, when we attempt, sometimes we are really not very. Yeah.
And then also with the male population tend to use more lethal instruments or lethal means to commit suicide. When a man decides to commit suicide, many of them have reached a point of no return. So they will turn a gun on themselves, they will hang themselves. And that is why many more males complete the suicide, yet the female tend to attempt, but few of them complete.
I think one of these days we ought to examine the psychology of male vis-a-vis female.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we are looking at globally that over half, that's around 58% of all deaths from suicide occur before the age of 50.
So again, age-wise, the younger, the more prone to suicide.
The younger people are committing suicide more than the elderly persons.
Yeah. And that also then will have an effect on productivity.
Because if you have a more depressed younger generation, their productivity in terms of nation building and personal development is actually affected.
It affects productivity, it affects the family unit. There's a lot.
Very true. And then, although we're able to observe that suicide cases are reported globally, but in the low and middle income countries, there is more suicide than in the developed or high income countries. In fact, if there was proper reporting, you could realize it's a crisis. I'll give you an example of Africa here, Lesotho. A very small country, it should be around 2.3 million. But Lesotho is the leading country with the suicide. It should even be global.
Wow. Then I wish somebody from Lesotho is listening to this and we could discuss more about why they are leading in suicide. What are the causes of in that country?
Lesotho has a population of say 2.3, 2.4 million people, and it's reported out of 100,000 people, 87 people commit suicide. 87 people out of 100,000 will die by suicide. The next country is in South America, Guyana, with around 50 people per 100K population. See, from Lesotho, 87 people per 100,000.
The next
country
is 50.
Is 50.
As you research on the statistics, is there any inkling on why suicide is so rampant in those, for example, those two countries?
Yes, we want to attribute the causes of suicide in those very high risk countries to one, poverty. Poverty is one of the causes. And we have other issues like rape is a big problem, trauma, instability in those countries where there's no general societal well-being. So people in Lesotho would consider more to take the route of suicide because of general suffering. Zimbabwe also has a high level of suicide, where people are suffering economically and there is no hope. Many people will take the route of suicide. But I discovered there is issue of a lot of trauma coming from rape and the general mistreatment. People feel oppressed heavily. You're looking at country like North Korea. So many people, because of the closed system. In North Korea, many people commit suicide. And in North Korea, it's very, very much underreported. But so many people are committing suicide because of oppression. Man was not created to live in an oppressed system. Man is a free will being. Man is a being who should be permitted to make choices between good and bad. So when you don't have that room to express the free will, you explode or you implode. So that's why in some of these countries, Eswatini has also a very high level of suicide. It's a kingdom where people live under very strict rules. In those kind of setups, the likelihood of people imploding or exploding because of the oppression, because of the struggle of life, because of the strife, because of the atrocities that are happening, rape, war, those kind of things can easily drive people into suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things you will want to look at globally.
Mm-hmm.
In those low and middle income countries, because of the general trouble in society, struggle to put a meal on the table, war in those areas. Go to a place like South Sudan. If people are dying here, you just lost a father, a mother, or lost two brothers to a bombing. The likelihood of this person just feeling there's no reason to live,
yeah,
is so high because I buried my brother here, I buried my sister here, I buried my dad here. Why should I live? In those war-torn areas, there's a very high likelihood that people would commit suicide quite often.
Yeah. So we are still on global statistics.
Yes, so if you look at countries where people are put into refugee camps, go to Congo. There's just a war recently in Goma. You are pushed into a refugee camp. You left home, you lost everything at home. The likelihood of this person committing suicide is very high. We are looking at migrants, people who are trying to leave their country, going to another place. The people who have crossed over the sea, they went to Italy, they got there, things were not as they expected, they committed suicide.
So generally, where a human being is pushed to the point where they are hopeless, helpless, there's likelihood that they will give up in life.
That is very much reported. We talk of refugees, migrants, prisoners, individuals from marginalized communities. Like now it's a global issue, the LGBTQ community. The levels of suicide in that setup is very high, and we'll not go into it, but there's a very high prevalence of death in those areas where people feel oppressed, where people are pushed to the wall. The likelihood of people committing suicide is very high.
people who are not satisfied within themselves on who they are or what they are, they're likely to give up in life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then when we come to Africa, the problem with our African system is the reporting of suicide is largely of the cases that are taken to hospital. That is where now we could get some statistics that so and so was brought in for a suicide attempt. But in terms of just normal registration of death cause being suicide, it is very little.
It's very little, yeah. And you find that people will not easily speak because also the stigma that will be attributed to the family unit where suicide has been reported. So I will not report my person because then I'll be reporting myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for the African setting, we have a problem in underreporting. But you look at places like South Sudan, Eastern Congo, where there's a lot of instability. Looking at the Southern Africa, this is Lesotho, Eswatini. You're looking into even South Africa has a big problem with suicide. You're looking into Botswana and Namibia. There are still a lot of issues of suicide. Those are reported ones. But in many other areas, it is largely underreported, but it is a crisis that needs attention.
Yeah.
Then maybe if you looked at, for example, the US quickly, the US looked at the statistics given by the CDC. And they said that in the US, nearly 49,000 people die every year out of suicide.
Yeah, and it is in the US that we think it's a land of plenty. So we do not expect people, because a lot of us would die to go to the US. And they think that once you reach there, you have everything. What then could be the reason why the suicide rate is so high?
Again, they may be having very good facilities, but the general pressure of life, that you could be under pressure in Kenya and still be under pressure in the US. You could be under pressure in a low-income country and still be very much under pressure in a very high-income country. So we're looking at like the broken family system. In the US, for instance, how do you have a conversation with Pastor Antoinette,
yeah.
And she would talk of like the family system is broken.
Yeah.
People would hardly have a time to sit down together and have a meal.
Yeah, she mentioned that she has siblings, but they spent even years without communicating. That is the larger family. But even the immediate family, people do not sit on the same table.
Yes.
To have a meal, yes. And that is the prime time where people would discuss their issues with one another. They discuss how the day was and what are the issues they were involved in. And because of this, then there's no avenue for one to vent their frustrations in their family unit.
We are having a situation where in the developed countries, people tend to be turned into robots. So these are money-making entities. Go out and get the money. Go out and make the money. Try and make a livelihood.
Yeah.
So in the process of making a livelihood, people lose life.
People lose life, yes, in the process. And this is now the case that is increasingly being reported in Africa also.
Yes.
People are very busy making money for livelihood. And like you rightly say, in the process, they are gradually losing life.
So probably we need to get onto a journey of rediscovering what's life.
Yes, exactly.
What is life? After you got all the money, you're chasing that career, you want to make that business. So after you've gotten it, and you never had time for your children, never had time for your spouse, never had time for your parents, and now you lost parents, you're losing children, you're losing yourself to depression, you are now busy but empty.
Busy but empty, that is right.
You have a
Busy
full
but
bank
empty.
account,
Yeah.
but you have a heart that is broken and empty.
And then because of your being too busy to even take care of yourself,
Yes.
you have diseases that you probably would not have had. And therefore you have made this money. But a lot of it is going into
medication. So we have.
So this life is, we've got to really rediscover what life is.
That is it.
Yeah. I think we have got to a point when we are too much worshipping money and wealth and forgetting about ourselves.